Hey everybody, Hashem here with Flat Fee Landlord Property Management, serving Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. Today I want to talk about a common question that we get, which is, should I allow pets in my Northern Virginia or Greater D.C. rental property? We get it quite often, especially for landlords that are just renting out their property for the first time. They don't own pets themselves, or maybe they do, and they're sitting on the fence on whether or not they should let a tenant that's going to move in have pets. So I want to discuss a couple of different pros and cons of allowing pets and not allowing pets, so that way you can think about it and see what works best for you and your particular situation. So just starting out, I want to let you know that approximately 70% of all tenants that are looking for a property have a pet. So as you can see, a high majority of people that are renting properties do have pets. So with that said, I want to jump into the cons of allowing a tenant to have a pet. Right off the bat, you're going to have another, not a person, but you're going to have a pet in the property, which is in addition to the renters that are going to be in the property also. With that said, the more people in a property, just naturally you're going to end up having a little bit more wear and tear than you would if you had less people or less pets. So number one is greater chance of having just typical normal wear and tear. Even if you don't have pets, one person living in a property typically is going to have less wear and tear on a property than, let's say, 5 people living in a property. So adding a pet is just going to be one more thing that could possibly lead to more wear and tear to your property. Another thing is you're going to elevate and give yourself a higher risk of having bigger damages happen to your property, whether it's the pet having an accident on your rugs or carpets, or causing damage to the walls or hardwood floors, things like that. Those things typically cost a little bit more than your normal wear and tear, which may or may not be able to be recouped from your existing tenant at the end of the lease. Another thing that you're going to want to do at the end of the lease term is deflea or de-tick the property so that there are not any fleas or ticks that could have possibly entered the premises because there is a pet in place. Another con is when you go to re-rent your property after you just had a pet in the property, the next tenant or prospective tenant that would want to rent the property may not want to rent the property because there was a tenant in place, whether it's due to allergies or preference, whatever it may be. You always run that risk on the next lease that would be moving in. So those are some different things to think about in terms of not allowing pets. Next, I want to talk about the benefits of allowing pets in your property. Right off the bat, we just discussed at the beginning of this that approximately 70% of all tenants or prospective tenants have a pet. So right off the bat, if you allow pets, you're going to be allowing a larger pool of people, prospective renters, being available to rent your property. What that means to you is that you should hopefully be able to decrease the length of vacancy in your property because you're opening it up to more viable people to be able to rent your property. The next thing you may want to consider if you do allow pets is added income. You can, in Virginia, charge a monthly pet fee or pet rent or a one-time non-refundable pet payment as well. For allowing a pet, you can charge a little bit more. The other thing that makes you feel good about it if you're a landlord is having a pet have a home. Some pets are in shelters or homeless. Allowing a pet in the property is going to allow the tenant to shelter a pet, and that's obviously one less pet that is out there without a home. So it's clearly up to you what you want to do in this situation. If you do decide to go the route of allowing a pet, which most people end up doing just because there are so many people with pets, there are a few things you can do to protect yourself and help yourself when you do accept tenants, and I'd like to go into that in detail. So as I discussed before, if you are going to allow a pet, you should charge an additional either a non-refundable pet fee or pet rent or an additional pet security deposit. And this is going to help cover you for that wear and tear that we talked about, because if there is added wear and tear, you're going to want to make sure you're getting greater income so that when that tenant moves out, you can use that added income to spruce up the property and fix some of that wear and tear. By having an additional pet security deposit, it's going to allow you to cover any additional damages that may be caused by the pet. So you're kind of protecting yourself in that situation if you run into allowing a pet in your property. Something else you might want to consider if you allow a pet is adding a pet addendum or a clause in your lease which clearly stipulates to all parties who's responsible for what. Whether you're going to say at the end of the lease the tenant is responsible for fixing any damages that the pet may have caused, or doing the deflea or de-tick at the end of the lease term so that that cost is not brought on to you as the landlord, and providing you a receipt. And also in that lease addendum or pet addendum, it's going to allow you to document how many pets, the size of pet, and type of pet. So just because you allow pets, you may be only comfortable with having one cat. But if the lease starts out with one cat and you don't clearly stipulate in writing that that's all you're okay with, your tenant may add on 3 more dogs or 3 more cats, and you may not be comfortable with it. So you want to clearly write out what is acceptable, what isn't, and it would also help to clearly write in there if you wanted to add pets in the future, how we'd go about doing that, if there would be an increase in rent, increase in fees, increase in security deposits. So that's something else to consider. And last but not least, you are, as a landlord, able to accept pets on a case-by-case basis. And what that means is, this is really good for those landlords that are okay with certain types of pets versus those that aren't okay with all of them altogether. So a lot of times what we do and what our landlords do is advertise their rental properties for rent and put that the pets are going to be put on the application, and they're going to be considered on a case-by-case basis. So if it's a small pet that doesn't have a history of causing damage to the property or high wear and tear versus like a bigger pet that may historically have a history of leaving wear and tear and having a bigger footprint, you can do that also. And when the application comes through, you can look at what type of pet it is, and if it's one that you feel comfortable with, you can go ahead and accept the application. If it's somebody or if it's a type of pet that you may not feel comfortable with in your property, then you can decline it on that case. So those are tips that I would give if you are open to having pets. Put those in mind. Those are things that we practice and we found very good success with. So if you have any questions about this when it comes to pets or anything else, property management, leasing, home sales, feel free to give us a call. You can also visit our website at www.flatfeelandlord.com.